DUERS is the worst.
How do you say that?
DUERST.
DUERS is the worst.
Curse the worst, bitch!
Curse the worst, bitch!
We are not anti-police. We're not anti-white. We're not anti-dialogue. But we are anti-BS.
That's right, man.
So now, the question is, how do we train police to deal or have a better relationship? Could you rephrase that question with black boys?
What's being done to address the issue of better preparing police officers to work with African American males?
Well, all of the things that are being done that have been mentioned, they're good, but you know, those are small things. Those are band-aids. If you really want to have a better relationship with black men, give them justice. Give them respect. The duty of a police officer is extremely challenging. And I'm sure that most of the police officers, as Mr. Gravello has said, are very professional. But he said all, and that's not the case. There is a minority, if it's a minority, that is extremely disrespectful. So when you strip search males and females, when you beat them down, when you disrespect them with verbal abuse, when you shoot them and kill them and they're unarmed, and then behind it you come up with your own version of what happened, and all of the laws are on your side, and justice is denied, that creates an imbalance. I heard you talk about, you know, the response that took place in Sherman Park, and how that's not the way to handle things. Well, I'm sure that these young people and those that erupted wasn't sitting in an office saying, well, let's see, how should we handle this? Should we burn down the thing? Hell no. It was imbalance. It was injustice. Injustice creates imbalance.
That's right.
And when you give people justice, then you bring them back into balance. When they're disrespected and they don't have any other way of expressing themselves, then that's what happens. They erupt. I'm surprised it didn't happen way before this.
Man.
Now, Mr. Farrakhan gave us the solution to how to have a good relationship. He gave us steps of atonement. First of all, somebody has to point out when we're wrong. Now, you know, if you're wrong, you're wrong. You injured somebody. Somebody got to point that out. That's my job. That's a preacher's job. That's a politician's job. That's the community's job. That's anybody in leadership's job, to point out wrong. The second step is the acknowledgement of it. If I did you wrong and I won't acknowledge it, how can I have a relationship with you?
Come on now. That's right.
If you can't even acknowledge strip search and apologize for it, if you can't acknowledge police misconduct and say that there is police misconduct, then how can we move forward?
But he bought us a jersey.
So there has to be acknowledgement. Then there has to be a confession. There has to be true repentance, meaning that you have to, you know, your attitude about what you did, you have to feel sick about it. You have to know that it's wrong and feel that it's wrong.
She can
And
read.
then you have to do something to make recompense for the wrong. You got to ask for forgiveness, and then you have to have a continued consistent act of goodwill where you do not return to the wrong, to give the person that you have wronged confidence and trust in your word. And only then can you have a relationship where we can sit down and have kumbaya.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. How do we collaborate with each other in the city to lead the change? Mr. Mohammed?
Well, we are collaborating in the city. Justice of Else collaborates with many organizations. MONSA collaborates with many organizations and churches. The conflict resolution, 10,000 Fearless, we go out into the community. It's not just members of the Nation of Islam. It's it's a combination, a collaboration of different organizations, and it's growing. So I think that collaboration is already taking place in the community. I don't think that it's a matter of how do we collaborate, because those of us who are in the community, and I see Black Panthers here, I see Brother Quab here, I see many other people in the community. We've been working together for years and helping to solve the problems in the community. So I think there's already a collaboration going on. I'm not sure if you need collaboration with those outside of the community. I'm sure that takes place as well. You know, when we have this kind of dialogue, it's very difficult for a lot of Black people to speak straight words because they are afraid of how it's going to be perceived by white people. It's very difficult for white people to receive straight words because they're not used to getting straight words from Black people.
Come on now.
And we do them a disservice by not speaking our mind because we reinforce white supremacy. They like to have dialogue and collaboration, but as long as they're in charge, as long as they control the agenda,
That's right.
as long as you're not too independent, and when you really have a good white partner, and there are some out there, when they respect the decision that you have made for your community, and they support what you are doing without trying to control it.
Come on.
Thank you.
Short term and long term. You know, carjacking is an effect of a larger cause that I referred to earlier. If a family structure is destroyed, then the children, they run and they raise themselves. My sons are not out carjacking. And if they was, they would.
I would be Velma.
Because there's a family structure there. So that's not something that they can find themselves doing. And so in the long term, we need public policy that's family friendly, that restores the family, understanding that it is public policy that destroys the family. Short term, some of the other things that I agree. You know, Brother Earl Ingram has a football league where every Saturday they have 800 youth that play football all day. Well, that can be replicated all over the city. Baseball is like a dying sport in the city, in the hood. But there needs to be investment in sports, not just basketball, but baseball and other things. There needs to be investment in mentoring programs. Running Rebels, that organization is doing all kinds of wonderful things for young people. But they need to be replicated all over the city. So there has to be investment in the youth. Not law enforcement, not punitive, especially since that situation was created again by social engineering. I have to keep saying that because we didn't do this to ourselves, and the young people didn't do this to themselves. They are victims as well as criminals in terms of, I don't even like to call them criminals because that's not really what they are by nature. They may be committing crimes, but that's not what they really are. The Black community, we have to be more assertive and more self-sufficient. We cannot be looking for those outside of our community to do for us what we can do for ourselves. So we have to take control of our children. We have to create activity for them. We have to build an economic base in our community so that we can, so that economic reason for carjacking is taken away. We can't wait for some benevolent white person to do for us what we need to do for ourselves.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed.
Couple thoughts. Black lives matter, all lives matter, blue lives matter. I really have a problem with all of that because, you know, every human being that God created matters to Him and matters in the community of human beings universally. But it's only black men that are being shot in the street, unarmed. It's only black men that's being denied justice. It's black men disproportionately filling the prisons in the United States, where Wisconsin is #1. It's black men that is the scapegoat of the problems of this country. It's black men that are the target of hatred, and it's black men that are the rejected stone in this country. So when you dilute the cause saying all lives matter, that's a deflecting tactic. And when you say blue lives matter, well, we already know blue lives matter because they basically get away with whatever they desire. When Dontre Hamilton was murdered by Officer Manning, shot 14 times, I went down to the Fire and Police Commission meeting, and the police union was packed on one side, the black community and the community on another side, and they were there to support Officer Manning to get his job back.
A murderer.
So there's this blue wall of silence. And they could be black police officers. They still benefit with this blue wall of silence. So it's bigger than just black and white. It's about justice. When I looked at those police over there, my mind went back to when black people were hung in the South. And if there was a trial, white people would pack that courtroom in support of the perpetrators, the lynchers, and intimidate the court. And most of the time, those people will walk right out of there. See, when you support wrong, and when you kill somebody and you shoot them 14 times, that's murder. There's no question about that, whether that's justified or not.
But she can breathe.
So when you have things, injuries like that, and no real acknowledgement of wrong, no confession, no repentance, no justice, then everything else that you say on a personal basis about your black friends and inviting somebody to dinner. See, I don't have to come over to your house to dinner to have respect for you.
I invited her. She didn't come.
I have respect for myself. What I want is justice for my people. That's what this is about. That's what the dialogue has to be about. Anything else is BS.
Daniel Durst is the worst.
How do you say that?
DUERST.
Durst is the worst.
Durst the worst, bitch!
Subscribe, bitch.